The economy is crashing. World War III is here. You should be on food stamps. Me and Justin will be homeless. And in fact, if you were watching this, you are probably already dead.
But first, a word from our sponsors. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, that is the irony of the situation is I'm sure you are seeing YouTube videos like that every single day. Yes, the economy is getting worse. Yes, there are things to worry about. But if all you watch is YouTube, the truth is becoming hyperbolized to the furthest extent I have ever seen, ever. I mean,
Yeah.
mainstream news, they kind of have a monopoly on the media. So they don't have to go so far out of the line. But YouTube actually rewards people for talking about the more doom and gloom because that entices fear and that makes people click on it. And that's what people do on YouTube. And it sucks because these are important subjects. But when people are changing the way that they are, their economic stance or changing their behaviors because of what they see on YouTube, when someone is directly, I'm not going to say manipulating them, but taking the truth and exaggerating it to an extent that makes it seem much worse or much greater than it actually is, I have a real problem with that. Justin.
Yeah, no, we have another channel which we named tongue in cheek confirming your biases, which kind of, is designed to call this out. And I think what goes on is like, look, do not get me wrong, Josh. I think you would agree with this. Like, it is prudent and wise, to have a cautious eye towards the world. It is prudent and wise, to have some, should we say, dry powder. It's prudent and wise, to take, reasonable precautionary measures, whether you're an individual, you're taking care of someone, your father with kids, whatever, right? So by all means, do that. But I think part of the problem is that social media, which of course YouTube falls into, it's designed to give people more of what they want to see. And after all, as I'm fond of saying, we're all biased towards our biases. And so you kind of get this echo chamber, in a sense, a digital echo chamber, where people seek out information they are searching for, perfectly understandable. And then they find the information because the information that they're searching for, or at least the viewpoints that they're searching for, will be out there. Someone will probably be saying something on Twitter, X, YouTube, whatever, Reddit, etc. And when they see this, rather than say, oh, well, listen, this is someone else who thinks what I think, and therefore I think I should go forward with this, they see it as a point of confirmation. And it might be the case, but the problem is that there's not the corresponding viewpoint, or there's not like counter viewpoints that are offered from that. Side note, one of the things that Musk has been doing with X that I've actually found very enjoyable is whenever they're, and especially in the context of what's going on right now geopolitically in the Middle East, and I guess in Ukraine too now, but really I've seen it much more in the context of the Middle East, Israel, and all that stuff. It's the community notes function. Josh, you must have seen this before, right? There'll be some post that'll be put up. It might be by an individual, it might be by a news source, it might even be by official government agency. And there'll be a story which will be, if not sensationalized, it'll be very slanted towards one direction, perhaps with justification. But having that community notes feature at the very bottom of the post says, hey, listen, readers out of context, which you might find useful. It does a very good job of, I think, framing it correctly or helping to put back into the discussion or whatever people want to talk about, even if it's serious, that especially if it's serious, because that's where you need it the most, the facts of the matter or additional facts that might not have come through in the initial post. Basically makes it harder for bad actors, I would say, to lie or to manipulate. And even if there's a good actor who, let's say, is just reporting something, and maybe in the heat of the moment, they're upset or whatever, again, perfectly understandable considering what's been going on, it kind of helps dial down and present an alternative viewpoint or an alternative facts or framings that a reader might find useful.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think Twitter has done a phenomenal job with that. That does not mean censor anything that goes against the mainstream media. And we see that a lot with YouTube and a lot of other platforms. Me and Justin have had a lot of videos taken down by talking about things that were not too politically correct, hence the name confirming your biases. And
Oh, so here,
you go.
oh yeah, Josh, I was gonna say too, like one of the things that I reminded of, and this is maybe from like 2 or 3 years ago, there was this huge hype, I'm leaving America, I'm moving abroad. Do you remember this? Where
Hey,
everyone was
to be fair, I was part of that hype. And
yeah.
Justin, you can't call my shit on it because I did move out of America. And guess what? Guess where I am right now? I'm back in fucking America.
Well,
I don't even think it's hyperbole because people did take the trend. And I think a lot of people are still doing that. It is great living outside of America, but America is still the best place to live. There is so much hate and unrationalization going on with everything, saying that our current situation sucks so fucking bad, you couldn't even believe it. Yeah. Do you think your situation sucks? Try living somewhere else. I mean, as bad as America sucks, it is by far, taking Brent Johnson's quote here, it is by far the cleanest dirty shirt. Yes, I may not shower. Yes, all my clothes may stink, but this one stinks the least by the furthest margin.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no, I was going to say too, and this gets back to my prior point. Well, I definitely think it's an important question to say. Okay, well, let's if things really go to hell in a handbasket. Okay, what's our next step? But between that step and fleeing the country, there might be a few other steps to consider first. Well, maybe we go visit the folks who are, let's say, maybe in some part of the rural part of America. Maybe we buy an RV. You know what I'm saying? There might be. I'm not saying you want to take that step off the table, but I'm just saying this might be one of the last things we want to consider. And still consider it, of course, but we kind of want to have some intermediate steps too. Same thing, and this is a mistake I made, over allocating to precious metals. Now, I'm not complaining that I did that, but that's one of those things that I find that's another common failure, where people say it's like the Peter Schiff problem, where I think Peter will be right ultimately at the end of the day, but right is like saying, Josh, in the end, we're all dead. It's like, well, yes, Justin, you haven't told me anything I don't know. Between now and, eventual death, there's going to be some other questions I need to answer. And that's what I'm looking to navigate.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes to taking your personal beliefs and pushing it upon the real world. And what I mean by that is what the government is doing is fucked up. The economy, they literally propped up the economy by printing a ton of money. I'm using that term very loosely. And they did all these things that shouldn't be possible. There shouldn't be a free lunch, and there's not. And people are rightfully calling out the bad actors in the situation. The problem is when you are taking what is actually going on in the physical world, it is not pure mayhem. When I go out and when you go out, Justin, do you see the shittiest economy of all time? I've been in Colombia. I have been in El Salvador, in Mexico, in some very poor areas, and even though the homeless has ticked up a little bit, inflation has increased a little bit, quite a bit, but it is nothing like these third world economies where shit is actually hitting the fan and people are actually going hungry. If you are walking around America, there's not too many people who are walking around hungry right now. That I can attest to that one.
Yeah, Costco free samples on Saturday morning. Yeah, we've all been there. I guess it's just I don't mean to say, and this is very much echoing Johnson right now. Like, I don't mean to say that America is blameless or perfect, and there's certainly some parts within America that are probably a little better, and some parts that are probably a little worse, if not a lot worse than other parts. But one of the things, Josh, I was thinking about the other day, I was actually reading something online, and it brought up the comment. And at first, I was in somewhat agreement with this, but the more and more I think about it, the more and more I found myself more in agreement with that. So, for whatever that's worth, and it had to do with the fact that you seem to have. I want to use the word better, but there might be a better word than better. Well, that's weird to say. In terms of dialogue, and here's what I mean by this. Consider what I just mentioned about community notes on X, or consider just maybe dialogue people are having. Maybe you overhear like a conversation at a bar or something like that, or you're sitting to someone at a plane, or you're in the gym and you just overhear people talking. The reason I mention this is that rather than, let's say, going back 5-10 years ago, people just talking about mindless Truman Show-esque BS, who's doing who or whatever, what was on TV or whatever. I mean, people are still talking about that, don't get me wrong. But there seems to be a greater, if not begrudging, awareness of people trying to ask better questions. Like, well, wait a minute, I don't, I'm no economist or whatever, right? But geez, it really seems like my groceries bill's ticking up. Or maybe another one might be like, hey, listen, I'm no like war expert or, geopolitical analyst here, but like, we already are in debt. We had Ukraine, and now we, the U.S., are talking about engaging in another military action, if not necessarily directly, at least supporting with material, logistics, or money, etc. Can we really afford that? Or like,
Justin, I hear nobody on planes or the gym asking those questions. I quite literally heard someone in the gym, "Free Palestine."
Yeah, well, so there you go. But and my point is, I'm not, and to be very clear, I'm not trying to take a side one way or the other on that particular conflict. But my point is that you suddenly have in that example, you have a geopolitical thought creeping into the lexicon, creeping into discussion. Now, it might be because you've got one side that's on Team A and one side that's on Team B over here, and they both want to rip each other's heads off. Which maybe that's maybe they're positives, maybe they're minuses for that. Again, separate conversation. But at least, you suddenly have this, this awareness of, listen, life is more than just, going out on Friday and Saturday night and then talking about whatever sitcoms are on TV. That's kind of my
Yeah,
point.
it is an incredible trend of more people becoming aware of some of the problems that we have. And
Yeah.
I think it is
Or
fantastic that people are actually talking about these problems. And there are more and more people that feel the need to create a platform on YouTube to discuss these issues. That's kind of what me and Justin are doing. But the problem I have is when you are taking the truth and turning it in a direction that you don't believe, that you know that you have to exaggerate it to get as many clicks as possible. And there are bad actors who are doing that. And the problem arises for me is really when the person watching takes actionable advice on that person because
yeah.
they are directly not misinforming them, but taking the truth and exaggerating it. And there is a lot of people in growing numbers that I see that are those bad actors today. And I just think that you should not take what people see on the internet as gospel. Just what do you see in your real life? Everything that I listen to online, it is all very skeptical because you are listening to somebody online. Justin, we might not even be real. We might be AI generated voiceovers talking. You have no clue what the hell is real or fake now.
Yep, that's the case. And I would say definitely the other thing on all this too is that, like, we kind of have got into this weird point where we have to challenge ourselves mentally. In other words, we can't just go with like eating, the good mental thoughts that confirm our existing beliefs. I mean, who doesn't like to have their existing beliefs confirmed? But my point is, it's now becoming much more, I think, apparent that it's on the individual, him or herself, to search out conflicting or divergent beliefs from what they might hold, just to double check and perform an audit on their own beliefs. Because if you keep going wholeheartedly with only stuff you believe, you know what it's like? It's like, when you're, I don't know, it's just like your mom telling you, like, you're the, most beautiful or the most handsome person alive or whatever, right? It's like, well, yeah, mom, of course, you say that, but really, I mean, like, but that's of course your opinion. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but you might need some more realistic, maybe some more harsh things, some more, should we say, blunt feedback, in order to learn how to be better. Assuming one genuinely wishes to be better, you just don't want the mom, pat on the head 24/7.
And finally, we want to thank all of our sponsors and buy all of our paid products. We have actually a course that is now selling for $20,000. You can buy it in payment processes of $1,000 each. So this is a special discount.
Yeah, and
Obviously, we're
find out
looking.
if you're already dead, and you probably already are.